We dubbed it a must-win game, and Canada delivered after a nail-biting start against Ireland that saw the Canadians concede the first goal inside 4 minutes. They regrouped for the 2-1 victory, and now their fate is in their own hands in that final group stage game against the host nation, Australia. As we welcome you into Good Night Australia, New Zealand, brought to you by CIBC, Andy Petrillo alongside Jordan Wilson and Jess Lisi. They need the full 3 points to give themselves a fighting chance in that final game against Australia. They do just that. Bev Priestman, Jordan, said that she feels this victory is what can make her team now. Do you think this can turn things around for the Canadians, given that shaky start against Nigeria? That was a 0-0 draw. Concede first here, managed to pull off the victory. Do you feel like they're growing into their own?
I think so. I think that there was enough for me to believe that Canada could do this. I think the match against Ireland was a make or break. But I think we all can agree on this match against Australia is do or die, right?
For sure.
Win or go home. Well, not really. They could tie.
Win or draw. That's what their fate's in their own hands.
Right?
Yeah.
The fate is in their own hands. They got to show up. But this Canada side, you saw the best of them and the worst of them. The worst of them being the first half, which just looked dormant. Looks like, a bit of luck here, the miracle from Grosso and a wet pitch, you could think, just playing a ball across. But then the best of them in the second half, where they grew into the game, and I just thought substitutions obviously were a huge part of that. But if they could play like the second half that they did, this is a team that could go far in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the biggest switch for them was their mentality. They came on in the second half. They had fire in them. You knew they wanted the win, obviously, but it really showed in their play. They were a lot more cool, calm, collected on the ball. They weren't forcing it. They were able to expose Ireland both on the flanks as well as in the middle. So I do think that this could be, the start of a good run for them. I think that once they have that mentality and they go into it now into every game with that, it can definitely start a good run for them.
A lot of talk getting into this one as well about Ireland and being feisty and being scrappy. And when they got that first goal, we thought, uh-oh, here we go. So credit to the Canadians for, not having this game turn into a wee bit of a mess, obviously coming back and winning. But if you were to put your finger on something, or maybe a couple things here, Jordan, what actually went right? Break it down. How did they pull this off?
Impactful subs. We got to start there. That was the catalyst. I also think you said this on One Nation, our podcast that we do as well, that Bev Priestman is brave with subs. A lot of managers maybe making one change, two, and then waiting to the 60th minute. She made three at halftime. And then I also think what could make her a phenomenal manager is saying to the three that were subbed, hey, I need to change things up so that you're ready for the next match, whatever it is, just managing the team. I think she did that well. All three subs that came on contributed to the push that Canada had in the second half. So I would say that being one of the biggest things. But then also bravery. Sophie Schmidt, for me, a former central midfielder, brave, got on the ball, even if there was pressure on her back. She was ready to turn, ready to play forward, ready to make those runs. And then Christine Sinclair, we'll talk a bit more about her later on in the show, but just showed why she's the talk of the town, why she's had such a career, because she's so clever with her movement. Even though she's not as mobile as she was 10 years ago, she's still finding ways to stay in games. I think the impactful subs has to be the talk of why Canada turned things around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think the subs were a big part of it, but overall for me, I just think it was a mentality shift. Even I think if they would have had the same lineup out there, there was a fire. It was lit under them. Not sure what the post-game. Oh my goodness. The halftime taco. Yeah, I got it. There was only one more option, so I couldn't screw it up.
Pre-game. No, wait, post-game. No, wait, it's halftime.
Yeah. Good thing I play soccer. But, I don't know what that chat was like, but something lit a fire under them. They didn't look afraid on the ball. They weren't forcing it, which was happening in the first half a lot. They were forcing a lot of those balls, trying to find spaces in behind that weren't there. Second half, they did a lot better. They had that hunger. They weren't afraid to take their chances. So I definitely think the mentality switch along with the subs really helped Canada in that second half.
Sometimes it's that intangible, and even watching that game, I feel like something shifted even with Kaylin Sheridan. Can't feel good for a goalkeeper to let that goal in, the Olimpico, 4th minute, but you just felt in that second half there was a confidence there, and that permeated throughout the rest of the team. Let's hear what Bev Priestman had to say after the match.
I said to them at the end, it could be the making of us, because I felt that we wobbled in the first half. Our bravery wasn't there, and I felt we played a little bit scared. And, I reminded them that we're Olympic champions at half-time and that we've got to take a step forward and be brave and get after this. It's not going to be easy. And I think the character, the quality, the experience that came about in the second half, that's the type of performance that we need moving forward. And I think these moments build character and experience that you can build upon now. I think the early goal, you know, it's not the way you want to start, and the nature in which it went in, it rocked us a bit. And to be honest, it was like playing an away game full of Irish fans in that stadium. It's basically a rehearsal for what we're going to go into in the Australia game. So that was a big occasion to play in, and the atmosphere was electric, really, for the Irish. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great experience for us to move forward from.
All right, Jordan, you wanted to talk Christine Sinclair. Let's do just that, because she was one of those subs that came on in. It was Christine Sinclair, Sophie Schmidt, and Shalina Zadorsky came on in for Khadisha Buchanan. Are you surprised that she started on the bench? A lot was being made of it simply because it was the first time that she has not started at a World Cup match. We know she averages about 60 minutes anyways with the Portland Thorns. We know her role has changed, but how did you feel about it?
I was not surprised. I don't think she should have started at the 10. Like, we'll get into it. I can't wait to have the Christine Sinclair talk.
Have it.
We're gonna have it a bit later. This is a perfect time for it. I know. I'm gonna whip it out and I promise, even if the episode's about to end, I'm gonna have a minute just to talk about Christine Sinclair. I got you. But look, having Jessie Fleming at the 10, I think we all can agree. I think Canada can agree that's our best number 10. So having Christine Sinclair sit and then using her off the bench, that was the ace card that Bev Priestman could play. So I wasn't surprised. I think Jessie Fleming did a great job in the midfield. I think it was tough in the beginning of the first half and throughout the first half, but I don't think that was just on Jessie Fleming. I think it was about the service that she was getting as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm not surprised that she came off the bench, and I actually think it was the right call. I think when she came in, you saw her experience, you saw her movement off the ball. In the first half, you know, I didn't think Vienne did horribly. I just don't think she got on the ball enough. To your point, Jessie Fleming, again, she was just more so invisible in the first half. She wasn't able to get on the ball, and that was nothing to her quality. It's just Canada wasn't doing a great job at building out of the back and really creating anything in the attack. So I do think Sinclair coming off the bench was a great call. She made a difference. She made an impact when she came in. And I think from, you know, this point on, I think that might be the best spot for her.
Also, it's her experience, quickly. I just wanted to say, like, when you look at a game, Bev Priestman, you don't expect to go 1-0 down early against Ireland, but you have someone like Christine Sinclair that can play the 9, can play up top by herself, that can play the 10. You have someone you're like, yeah, I could trust you to go in and figure out how to change the game. So she could be an ace card coming off the bench.
Well, we've seen her be used that way by Bev Priestman in other games as well, whether they've been friendlies or the She Believes Cup, and there is still something about Christine Sinclair. While Father Time may have caught up and she doesn't have the foot speed that she once had, she still can see the game three-dimensionally. So she kind of knows where to be at the right time, right place type of thing. So for sure, I think that impact sub is something that suits Christine Sinclair very well. Whenever people ask me about the identity of this team, I always say it's defensive, and we know this. That's basically how they win and won that Olympic gold. And we look at this game against Ireland. Kaylin Sheridan gets beat on that corner, the Olimpico. Khadisha Buchanan, we know, hasn't been feeling well. Yes, she also picks up a yellow, so you wonder if Bev was protecting her a little bit there, but she comes off at half as well. How are you feeling, even though they locked it down in that second half? Where are you on the glass half full, glass half empty on Canada's defense?
So I think the positive is that they've only had 1 goal against them, and it was a glaring mistake. Like, it wasn't a player broke down the whole defense. It was just a goal that Kaylin Sheridan would want back. She would want to probably tip that over. I'm not a keeper, I'm a defender, so of course I'm very critical about what keepers do. But I think there wasn't an Irish player coming in the box. There's only one. Khadisha Buchanan screened them. So it's easy for her to get a catch and maybe drop on the ball or just tip it over. So that is a positive. I think the area where I want to see Canada improve, if they want to make a real big, deep run in this tournament, would be the spaces between the center backs and the left back or right back. Specifically with Gilles and Lawrence, because Lawrence likes to go up and press, and you want your modern fullbacks to go forward, right? But what also happens with that, teams say, okay, look, when Lawrence goes forward, we're going to dump the ball into that area and just try to cause havoc. And Caruso, she had my heart beating fast when Ireland would go forward because she would just run in that space. And then Gilles is very good when the game's in front of her, and most center backs are. even for myself playing, I hated having to turn and run backwards and face your own goal because that's just when danger happens. You have to get everything right. The game in front of you is comfortable. So for Canada, that's an area where if they want to go to the semifinals, quarterfinals, really make a run in this tournament, they have to shift better. They have to cover for each other better. They have to take care of those spaces that lie in between the back line.
Yeah, to your point, Andy, they have been a very good defensive team all these years. That's always something you can compliment Canada for. But I think that in this tournament specifically, I'm a little bit focused on the negatives, and I'm just saying that in the sense of, to your point, yes, it was obviously a great goal. It was unfortunate for Sheridan, but the build-up to that corner kick was Ashley Lawrence being too high and being able to slip that ball in behind, right? There was a lot of gaps. They were also really exposing the gaps between the center backs and Quinn in the first half. There was too much time for players like McCabe to run at the back line. You can't give that time and space to those players. And, obviously, luckily for Canada, McCabe and everyone else, Caruso, they didn't finish some of their opportunities. But when you play other teams like in England or like a U.S., someone like that who has a really big offensive threat every time they get into that final third, those might come back to bite you. So I do think they need to clean it up a little bit. I know they're very capable. They did shut it down in that second half against Ireland. But as of right now, I wouldn't say that it's the most positive feedback for their defensive shape.
While I do contribute to the questions on this show, this one is not mine. It's a spicy one. We love the word spicy. Because that seems to be the case with the Canadian women's journey here so far at the World Cup. We know it's boiling down to that final group stage game against Australia. A, whether or not they move on, but B, whether they're also going to finish first or second, depending, right, if they win or they draw. Good news is their fate is still in their own hands. But here's the thing. What do you think is more likely? That Canada makes the semifinals at this World Cup? So that's right. Did I just bypass round of 16 and quarterfinals and go straight to semis? Yeah.
Well, skipped over those.
Do they make the semifinal? Or are they out on Monday?
So they're not out on Monday. Quarterfinals feels confident to me.
The question is semifinal.
Hold on.
That's why I said.
Can someone give me a chance to speak? No. Okay? I said quarterfinals makes me feel good. However, I'm going to back myself 10 toes down. Semifinals, they could do it, for sure.
10 toes down in those beautiful pink shoes. I do.
You know what? I miss footy, so this is why I put on the Gazelles today.
Gorgeous shoes.
You know what? No, I don't think that Canada's out on Monday. I definitely don't. I do think that they have a better chance of going to the semis. I think I like their chances on Monday. I really do. So I'm going semis.
Yeah. All right. Canada's growing into this. That's for sure, into this tournament. So we're all feeling pretty good. More likely to make the semifinals. They can get knocked out on Monday. Because here's the group, right? So Nigeria with that big win over Australia. They're now tied on points with Canada 4-4. The Aussies are going to be desperate for a win in order to move on because that's going to be crushing for them. They're one of the hosts. They do not want to go out in the group stage game. So we'll see how that game goes with Nigeria and Republic of Ireland. Because here's the thing. If Canada loses, then we have to start doing math. Then Nigeria has to lose against Ireland. And then we got to start looking at the goal difference. Guess what I don't want to do, Jordan?
Count goals?
Math.
Yeah, I don't like math either.
Nobody likes math. Win or draw, and you are going through. We mentioned Kaylin Sheridan. We mentioned the Olimpico. Well, you know who's going to break that down from a goalkeeper perspective? There she is, Rylee Foster. She's joining us next year on Good Night Australia, New Zealand, brought to you by CIBC on One Soccer. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. You know what time it is. This is when we check in with goalkeeper Rylee Foster and get her thoughts on Canada's victory over Ireland. 2-1 the final there. Welcome back inside our One Soccer studio. There she is, Rylee Foster. All right. The Canadians getting the full 3 points, much needed. Rylee, it's put themselves in a position where they do have their fate in their own hand against Australia, a win or a draw. But before we get to that, I do want to look back to the Ireland match and just your overall impressions of that game.
Well, I think it obviously started off in the first 4 minutes a little hectic for us, and I don't think we were expecting that, and I don't think the fans were expecting to be down 1-0 with 4 minutes to go, or 4 minutes into the match. So for me personally, that's not ideally how, as a player, I'd want to get on that step, but I am happy overall with the fact that collectively as a group, we were able to become resilient and put the goal away. Dree did amazing in that game. I think personally she was outstanding. She was relentless. She was fighting for every opportunity, taking shots on goal. and ultimately it paid off in the end. But yeah, I think happy we got the 3 points. It's tournament football. It's messy. All you got to do is get the 3 points on the board and move on. But in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't our best game, to say the least.
It was a tale of two halves, that's for sure. That first half, I think everyone agrees, even the Canadians, they were not at their best. Second half, they turned it around. What do you think helped them turn it around to get the victory?
I think whatever Bev said in the locker room coming into the second half was probably the most important part of it, because you could tell right off the bat the girls came out running. They were ready to go. There's just a different attitude, a different mindset, different energy into that game. But also our subs were very impactful. We had Smith come on, and she just controlled that midfield, finding passes through balls, which ended up leading up to the goal that helped us secure the win. So personally, our bench group, even though some of them started our match, we have a lot of ambition and fight coming off of that, and that's really important in tournament games, because sometimes the games just don't go to plan, as we experienced the other day. So for those players to come on and make a big difference, that's a big credit to them, and honestly I think that's what changed the script for us.
You know, it was great to see Sophie Schmidt get that assist as well on that Adriana Leon goal. Let's not forget, she's the one who has come out and publicly said, this is going to be my last World Cup. So you know she wants to have an impact in the games, that's for sure. I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room. I don't want to bury the lead here, Rylee, because from a goalkeeper perspective, we have to get your thoughts on the Olimpico that was scored by Ireland. From a fan perspective, of course we love that goal. It was entertaining. It's going to make the highlights. Olimpico, that's off a corner. It goes straight into goal with nobody touching it. But I need to know, from a goalkeeper point of view, that has to be devastating. What do you think Kaylin Sheridan should have done here?
Yeah, it's definitely an ego kill, especially when, if you look at the trajectory of the ball and where it actually starts to drop, it's kind of like right at her fingertips. But personally, what I would have done differently, and what I think Kaylin should have done, is held her line. I think her starting position originally, prior to when she took her first few steps forward, was fine. She would have actually just simply had to jump up and catch the ball. But because she took those extra 2 to 3 steps forward prior to the ball really even catching flight, she kind of put herself in a bad situation, which made her have to retract backwards and catch up with the ball's trajectory. And then by the time it started to drop, the ball was behind her before she could make an impact on it. So that would probably be my biggest criticism. Unfortunately, it happened to Kaylin. Unfortunately, it is her first big time on the big stage. But these are little mistakes that have easy fix. So I think it's better to have this stuff now, unfortunately, in a World Cup. But I have a feeling that won't be an error we'll see again.
There was just everything that was soul-crushing about it. Again, the Olimpico, 4th minute, we mentioned Ireland going up ahead, their first ever goal at the Women's World Cup. We did see Canada huddle after that, and even though the rest of the half wasn't the best, yes, give them credit, they did what they needed to do to force that own goal and head into the half 1-1. Oh, you're getting phone calls. Everyone wants to know how you feel about Olympicos there. But how do you regroup as a goalkeeper when you've made a glaring mistake? How do you mentally have a short-term memory?
Yeah, that's hard, especially when the mistake is so early on in the game. The goalkeeper lifestyle, you have to be short-term memory, kind of like Nemo, goldfish mentality. It happens and you got to get it right out of your head, because ultimately you are dependent on now to show up and make those big saves and make the game-winning moments. So for me personally, I think it's good that the girls brought in everyone into a huddle. They kind of got on the same page, because even though the mistake that occurred in the goal, just the whole momentum of the game was not going in our favor in that first 5 minutes. And we really needed to get on the same page quickly. So as a keeper, short-term memory, I like to personally get on the ball right away, just to kind of make a clean pass or get the ball in my hands and distribute it well, just because it kind of sets the tone for the next thing to happen. Unfortunately, it's isn't easy right after a goal, but as a team, getting back together on the same page was crucial.
I'm going to start calling you Ted Lasso now. All right, Ted Lasso, as we head into their final group stage game against Australia, how are you feeling about it?
I'm excited. This game is the group is so close with Nigeria, Australia, and us. We have to come up with 3 points. We have no choice. We can bank on Australia drawing with them, but it's not going to help anyone. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation. It's a bit scary, because ultimately I believe we're a team that needs to go through. But like I said in the previous shows, Nigeria was never a team that we need to take lightly, and they were going to be that dark horse in this group. And as we've seen, they've come out and pulled out results. So it is definitely nerve-wracking to say that this comes down to this game with Sam Kerr potentially making her comeback into this game. Interesting to see what's going to happen with our back line as we made some subs at the halftime, which is not very typical to see in a back line, but anything can happen. I have hope in all of our experience and the players that we have, and hopefully Keisha's fit to bring her experience and leadership into the back line. But it'll be a very exciting match for everyone to watch, and I'm sure it'll be a good one for the fans, especially on home soil in Australia.
Yeah, we know Kadisha Buchanan was dealing with an illness, also had a yellow, so maybe taken out for precaution, but you know between her and Vanessa Gilles, those are two center backs you definitely want in the lineup. All right, Rylee, as per usual, you're going to stick around. We have more coming up. And a reminder that we have the world of football covered for you. One Soccer Today. That is a weekly show that goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the One Soccer channel. When we return to Good Night Australia, New Zealand, we'll be going around the World Cup, the Women's World Cup. What are other stories that have caught our attention? Maybe it was a game, some particular players. Jordan and Jess rejoin me here on the show, so stay with us as you continue to watch on One Soccer. Welcome back to Goodnight Australia, New Zealand, brought to you by CIBC. Time now to go around the World Cup and the storylines, the players who have been catching our attention. And we begin with England, and this isn't exactly positive news for them. The European champions already entered this World Cup without their captain, Leah Williamson, and their top goal scorer at the European Championship, Beth Mead, both dealing with injury. And then earlier in their second game of the World Cup, a 1-0 victory over Denmark. It came at a cost. Star midfielder Kira Walsh went down with an apparent knee injury, and this is what manager Serena Wiegman had to say after the match.
Of course, I'm concerned because she couldn't walk off the pitch, but we don't know yet, so we can't take any assumptions. Let's just wait till we really have a diagnosis, and then we can tell you.
England, the favorites for a lot of people to win the World Cup. As mentioned, Rylee, they're entering this as the reigning European champions. But in their first game, it was a 1-0 victory over Haiti. Second game was a 1-0 victory over Denmark. It's been tight. Now that they lose another player, how are you feeling about England?
Yeah, and definitely concerned. I think they definitely have the strength and the depth of personnel. But I think what's most concerning is that they're not scoring as many goals as they were in the Euros. And they have a lineup of strikers, amples of talent and literal shotguns to put the ball in the back of the net. And it's just odd to see that it's not coming to fruition. I would have been happy to see Rachel Daly as a 9, especially today, because she can score goals and she's been proving it all season in England. But now with losing Kira, you lose that creativity in the midfield and that control and the finesse to thread balls through and find that unique pass that ultimately ends up in a final act. So I'm a bit worried for them, but I think with the experience they have, the clientele and Serena's professional experience as well, I don't think it'll hold them back as much. It's just going to be an unfortunate moment for them. But I think they need to focus on finding a way to get the ball in the back of the net. And I honestly think it might be a clientele shift.
We know the crossover, Jess. The Canadians could potentially meet them, so I don't know. Are you fearing England if that's the case? Are you not, given their current circumstances?
Yeah, you know, I do think Walsh is a big loss for them. Like Rylee said, that's a lack of that you lose that creativity in the midfield. But at the same time, to Riley's point as well, there is a lot of depth in England. So I don't think that it necessarily makes them an easy opponent. I don't think that Canada can go into that matchup, you know, saying, well, we got it now, they have injuries. And, you know, I do still think it will be a top tier opponent to play. So am I feeling better? Maybe a little bit, but I still think that England, although they haven't showed it quite yet in this tournament, I do still think they're, you know, a top tier team, and it'll be a really good competition for Canada.
I think in knockout football, there are no such thing as easy games. So Canada obviously playing either England or Denmark if they can slay Australia in a few days. It's not going to be an easy match, but this is a beatable England side if Canada play their best. I think we saw their best for the past 45 minutes, the second half. If they can play like that and put that into a majority of a match, I think they can make a run in this tournament and go far.
Yeah, you never want to take anyone too lightly, that's for sure. We're learning that even in Canada's group, right? Everyone thought, oh, maybe not Nigeria. Oh, maybe Nigeria. Okay, fine. Jordan's just going to start
Not everyone.
He's going to pat. This is around the time of the shows where he starts patting himself on the back.
Pretty hard.
I know.
That was a really hard pass.
No, it's just the back of my neck. My cranium is like extra strong.
No injuries on the show, please. Yeah. No injuries here. Let's take a look at maybe a team or match now that we're, a little bit into this tournament. Any team, particular, or match stand out to you?
I hate that I have to agree with Jordan on this,
Oh.
but I'm going Nigeria. I actually, the Nigeria-Australia game was, people are saying, an upset. But you know what? I think Nigeria is a team that you can't really count out. They've proven time and time again. They're a team that likes to fight to that final minute. They don't turn off when they're scored on, as you saw in this matchup. They were obviously down a goal first. They came back shortly after. They are a team that just keeps going. They don't give up. They're able to use their pace. They're great in transition. So I just think time and time again, Australia has proven that they are a force and they're not somebody you can count out.
That game was ludicrous, by the way, because you saw 90 plus 10. That's also when Australia scored. They made it tight. That was so much fun to watch, period. What about you, Rylee? How are you feeling about a game or a particular team that's impressed you so far?
No, I have to agree with Jess. I think Nigeria personally is like, they are that dark horse that no one really anticipates to come out on top. But I think in tournament football and in any game really, capitalizing on mistakes, especially against a team who has rapid forwards, you're going to get punished. And Australia saw that with little dinky headers in the back and kind of coughing up the ball in the midfield. They're going to pounce and they're going to put you away. It's simple as that. They have talent. They have a very good striker. They have experience in different parts of the world. It doesn't make sense on why we would count them out. And Nigeria is doing exactly what we all, I guess, weren't expecting and kind of underestimated, and showing us that they are a team to be reckoned with. They are a team that can win games. They are a team that can go far in tournaments, and they deserve the respect. And they've showed that now in 2 matches, drawing against Canada and also putting away Australia, the hosts.
Aren't you feeling good about yourself?
You know what? Pride comes before the fall. So I'm just going to sit here. I've just been nodding my head. We said it's a group of death. You could see Canada, Australia, then Nigeria as well, going into the last match. We don't know who's going to be top or 1 or 2. There's 3 teams that literally could have it. So with Nigeria, the only thing I'll add with these 2 beautiful ladies have said is that with Nigeria, they do everything 100%. That's the only thing to really add on that. And going into a must-win game or a game where if you win, you top the group, I like their chances.
Yeah. Oshwala getting the go-ahead goal.
And she was on the bench.
Yeah.
Like, she came off the bench to score and win the game. So, yeah, sorry to...
Can I give a shout out to the Philippines? We talk about these World Cup debut teams, and they end up pulling off their victory as well. I mean, New Zealand gets their first ever win at a World Cup, and then the Philippines defeat them and get their first ever win at a World Cup. That was pretty special for them, and you saw what that meant to them. And there are a lot of superstars, as we know, Rylee, at this tournament. A lot of them are in their twilight years, and we know we're going to say goodbye to Megan Rapinoe and Marta. And I mean, we have the superstars on the Canadian team as well with Christine Sinclair. But it really does feel like the next generation has arrived. There are so many young players in this tournament who aren't just taking up a roster spot, they're having an impact with their team. Any young player in particular who's caught your eye?
I'd have to say Sophie Smith from the US. And I think, no, I'm not going to take the glory away from America, but that team is full of talent as is, and you can go across the board in this whole tournament. But this is a player that has showed up in every occasion and has really put her mark on the U.S. men's national team at a very young age. She came out at the end of NWSL and with putting goals in the back of net, getting the recognition she deserves there, and now stepping out at the biggest stage in football in general, and being able to put balls away that she has, it's amazing. And she's dominating backline. She's attacking players and taking them on and putting the back of the net fluidly, like it's her day job. Well, it quite literally is, but it's easy for her. And at her age, to see where she is now and imagine what the next few years are going to look like, it's scary to think about how good she can be.
Pretty sure she was your player, was she not, to keep an eye on?
She was. I'm going to brag. I was right there, too. That just had to go off Jordan's bragging.
Everyone's getting the brownie points here. So, I mean, is she still the one that you would choose, or because you already had her picked, did somebody else catch your eye?
No, I'm going to stick with Sophia Smith. I think that, She has 10 goals with Portland Thorns right now. She's leading the league. She also has 5 assists, which is second in the league. And that just goes to show her quality. She's not only someone that is able to finish, she's obviously great 1v1. She can strike from distance. If she's inside the 18, the ball's probably going in the back of the net. But she's also very aware. She has great game awareness. She's able to assist her teammates. So Sophia Smith is a force. I mean, everything about her is a force. She's got the pace. Defensively, she works really hard. And I think that she is becoming the face of this national team for the U.S. right now.
Young, 22 years of age. Who do you got?
If you want to talk about young, Linda Caicedo for Colombia is a story. She's a phenom. She's ready. This is her 3rd World Cup. Now, I need a preface. Last August was U17, then she's played in U20. She's only 18 years old. So this is her first, I guess, official World Cup, right?
First ever woman to play in all 3 World Cups of those age, U17, U20, and now senior.
We are looking at someone in 4 years' time that will play in the next one, and maybe a player like a Marta or Rapinoe that can maybe do 6 World Cups. She's that young, but she's that good. I love footy. I talk to you guys about it all the time. You're like, okay, here goes Jordan again. But her first touch, when she takes the ball down, the way she plays with flair, the way she attacks players, she's something to watch. So for Colombia, she's a standout. She's someone that personally I didn't really know before this tournament, but has just taken off. And when she plays, the way that she plays with so much flair, it's just something to admire.
Her story's crazy, too. At just 15 years of age, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So she beats that. Or makes history, as I just said, in playing in all 3 World Cups. Scores a goal in Colombia's first game as well. So she's a factor. Again, these are players, even though they're young, they're a factor. I'm going to give another shout out. Italy, Giulia Dragoni, 16 years of age, just 16 years old in that midfield. It was a tight game against Argentina. She was just manning that midfield. She was commanding it. Yes, she gets subbed off. The player who subbed in for her ultimately gets the goal for Italy. But at 16 years of age, to be doing that and being the person in control of the midfield, I think is pretty special as well. All right, now we're going to go back between the sticks here. Rylee, your specialty. Just 5 of 9 penalties have been scored this World Cup. Could have been a lot worse because a couple of them were actually saved by keepers, but then the keepers were said to, they were penalized for encroachment, retake, they end up going in. So fewer goals could have been scored here by the way of PK. What do you think is going on here? Do you think this is a case of poor finishing, or is this a case of goalkeepers getting better?
Ooh, I can never neglect the fact that goalkeepers deserve the shutout here, because honestly, to be able to stand on that line with the pressure that's on their shoulders, especially in games like in front of massive crowds, making a save is the absolute biggest honor, and that's a big accomplishment. But as a striker, you have all the opportunity to put that ball in the back of the net. There's no reason really why you shouldn't be giving the goalkeeper a hard time to make an actual outstanding save. All the PK saves have been amazing, but there's some that we could probably argue were a little bit easier to save than others. Yes, the keeper went the right way, but the pace of the ball, the height, also just their lineup and their approachment, it kind of gives it away. So I'd have to say that I would like to see more quality from the striker's end and the finisher's end, because at the end of the day, that's their job to put it back in the net. And if your coach is picking you to step up on the spot and put that ball there, you should be doing it with absolute grace and no questions about it. And there's been a lot of questionable penalties lately.
First 8 matches of the World Cup, by the way, also featured a penalty kick. So it's like the refs are having a field day out there. Going back to our topic of young players, how could we ignore Ari Borges of Brazil at 23 years of age? She picks up the hat trick, the first and only hat trick so far here at the World Cup. However, it was her outstanding assist on Brazil's 3rd goal that made us, the jaws, I think everyone's jaw dropped here. Take us through this.
Look, I'm watching this at home, Andy. Oh, the little back here right there. But look,
God,
everyone's shooting.
Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go.
Unselfish. I was at home, and I'll do it even here. I stood up, and I was clapping. Because I know you're shooting, Jess Lisi. I know you're shooting, Andy Petrillo. Yeah. I'm shooting this going over the goal. No one's doing a little back heel and playing that chance 100%. That's what you call a 100% chance. You give it to your teammate, all they gotta do is slot it in, and they get the glory. But it was beautiful.
Yeah, and that just shows her level of awareness. Not like, to your point, a lot of people would shoot. You're right there. You're basically inside the 6-yard box. There's no way you're gonna go and do the little back heel to your teammate. So, that was a world-class goal right from the start. The 1-2 touches, the little chip ball in, and again, the awareness to be able to do it. It was just it was a world-class goal.
I have to say, though, I mean, first of all, that is Brazilian football.
Yeah.
But because of her last name, I just kept hearing Gareth Wheeler in my head of Tristan Borges. Borges is gorgeous, although she can steal that now.
It was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. That game for her was gorgeous. All right. Rylee, before we let you go, which group intrigues you the most going into the final matches?
I'd have to stick with the Canada group because of how important this last match is across 2 games. Like, it's a do or die situation for all 3 teams, and everyone's fighting for the 3 points. And crucially, Canada personally need to get the 3 points to top the group and have a little bit more of a preferential leeway into the knockout rounds. But it's going to be spicy out there with Australia on home turf playing us. It's going to be an interesting game. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'd have to say that's the most interesting group going forward.
Oh, for sure, because that final game definitely matters for 3 of the 4 teams. What group for you, Jess?
Yeah, I agree. Group B or Group F, to be honest with you. But I do think Group B is something that's wide open right now. So you can't help but be intrigued and look at it. You know, you got France, Brazil, and Jamaica in Group F, who you don't know who's coming out of that either.
This was the other one I was looking at, yeah.
This was the one we were questioning. Is this the group of death, or is Canada's group the group of death? So I definitely think both are really intriguing, and anything can happen.
It's all contingent as well on that match with Brazil and France, right? Because the Reggae girls could really make a run and a push. They play Panama, get 3 points, then it all comes down to the last day. So yeah, Group F for me is spicy. I'm just hoping that's already in the bag in Group B for Canada. Just can't lose. I don't want to jinx it. Sorry, moment of silence. I don't want to jinx it. If they go and win or tie, they're basically through.
Yeah, fate in their own hands. Rylee, always a pleasure having you on. Great insight. That is Rylee Foster, goalkeeper for Canada. We have the Tony Bennett Match of the Week in the Canadian Premier League. That goes tomorrow, 4 p.m. ET. That's Valor taking on Pacific. We have more World Cup talk coming up here on Goodnight Australia, New Zealand. We're going to look ahead to Canada's final match against Australia, the host nation. Do we think Sam Kerr is going to be in the lineup? What do the Canadians need to do differently to pull off a win? That's coming up next on the show here on One Soccer. Stay with us. Group B schedule. This is the group Canada is in. Their final group stage game, Australia, Monday, 6 a.m. ET. You can catch all the action on TSN. And then Ireland will end things off against Nigeria. And we're going to now talk about that final group stage game as we welcome you back inside our One Soccer studio. Andy, Jordan, and Jess with you. All right, so the Aussies in their first game, it was a 1-0 victory over the Republic of Ireland. They needed a penalty kick to win that one. We know in their second game, that was a loss to Nigeria. Are you considering the Canadians favorites given the Aussies' struggles? How are you approaching this game if you're Canada?
I mean, if I have to choose, are they favorites? I would say yes, but I will say it's a tough feat and a tough task to play Australia just because they're at home. And just because the environment, it's a must-win or tie game, but you can't go in saying, hey, all we need is a tie, because then if you go in with that mentality, you're most likely going to lose. You have to put away the game early. So I'm a bit uneasy with Canada just because they don't really start games that well. They usually grow into games. But when you have that environment, and Jess, you've played in big stadiums as well, when people are just chanting for your team to lose, and certain plays can not go your way, it really plays on you. So I'm hoping that Canada can rise to the occasion, but do that early.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, Australia is the underdog in a sense of they need that win. Canada can't get away with a tie. So I think sometimes it's actually easier being the underdog. You have so much to lose, but you have that fire already lit under you. And as we said, we saw Canada in that first half against Ireland. They struggled a little bit to kind of have that fire right from the get-go. So to Jordan's point, I do hope that they come out, you know, fierce from minute one and not wait till that 45-minute mark, because Australia is still a very capable team, and I do think that it's going to be a pretty even matchup.
And I know we like to discuss matchups and the crossover, and if they finish first or second in the group, who would that mean they'd face in that round of 16? But if you're the Canadians, I mean, are you in a position to kind of play with that? Do you have that kind of skill where you can have a draw and go, oh, let me see how England, Denmark, and China are doing, which, by the way, that group is going to go down to the wire. There's a possibility that 3 teams can finish with 6 points. Or are you just Canada saying, go for the win? You cannot focus on that crossover group for you. It has to just be the win.
I think 2 things are at play here as well is that momentum that just carries you into knockout football, right? If you make it by a hair or a goal difference or whatever, you're kind of thinking round of 16, you have to go in and do something extra. But if you go and beat Australia and already take care of it, then you're like, we just won 2 on the bounce. You've won back-to-back. So you're feeling like, okay, whoever we play, whether it be England, whether it be Denmark, we feel like we could beat them because we've just been playing progressive football. We saw 2 halves from Canada, the worst and the best. If they could take their best going into this next match against Australia, they can make a run in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm confident that they can make a run as well, and I do think that if we see that second half Canada come in, I'm not sure if Australia can compete. I think Canada is a really, we've spoken about how solid of a team they are, but we just haven't seen their best. And that's where, you kind of get down on them and you're a little harsh in criticizing them. But we do know that they're a very capable team. And yeah, I just think that at the end of the day, this could be their match. It's just up to them. But I think they have to go in with a winning mentality. You can't go in for a tie that, that never really works out.
No, it really doesn't. Worth noting, remember, last year, the Canadians beat the Australians in 2 friendlies in Australia. Sam Kerr was in those matches. They managed to neutralize her. We know that she's been dealing with a calf injury, has missed the first 2 games for Australia. The belief was that she could make a return for Australia in this game against Canada. Let's hear from their manager, Tony Gustafsson.
Of course she will. That's going to be her mindset, and that's what I love with Sam. Like, she's going to do anything she can to be out there. I know that. She want to be out there, and she deserves to be out there. And if she can be out there, she will be out there. And we just need to plan a plan for 90 minutes together if she's available. I'm saying if now. If she's available, we just need to come up with a plan together with the staff, together with Sam, to see what's the best to maximize the potential minutes that she has going into this game if she's available.
We can make a drinking game out of the amount of times he said if, because this, the injury is serious because you are the host nation of the World Cup. You are the face of this tournament, Sam Kerr, and you haven't played in 2 games. That's a serious injury because we know how many times athletes play injured, and the best athlete, their 70% is still better than a lot of people's 100%. I don't even know if she's at 50. When you are hosting the World Cup, when you have been the face of this tournament and you haven't played the first 2 games, something serious is happening there. But if she were to play in that final game, what kind of task is ahead of the Canadians here?
So Australia's manager, the amount of times he said if, homegirl's gonna play. It's just how long. She's coming on the last 20. Sam Kerr in Australia, what she is to this team, she's the catalyst. She's the person to go and score goals. All eyes on her. Arguably, probably the best player in the tournament. Think if she's 50%.
The best player in the tournament who hasn't played.
Exactly. She's gonna play. Like, this is a must-win game for Australia. Do or die. The stage couldn't be bigger. What more would you want than your ace card, your best player, coming on in the one game that you need to play to win? She's going to play. It has to be something gravely serious for her to be like, look, I can't even run. If she's even 50%, she's playing at some part in this game.
Yeah, I can see them starting her if she is fit to play, maybe not playing 90 minutes. But this is a do or die game for them. They're going to put all their firepower out there. And I think, Sam Kerr's such a competitor, as the coach said. She's going to get out there if she can. And if she is at 50%, we're going to see her out there. And I think that, yes, that's going to be a challenge for the Canadians, but at the same time, I do still think that if Canada comes out and plays their game, they play solid defensively, that regardless if Sam Kerr is out there or not, they can still get that win.
I think with also what I need to add is that I think Sam Kerr could be the kryptonite for Canada's back line when we just talked about spacing, right? How they like to go forward with Lawrence and Riviere as well. Gilles or Buchanan or Zadorski's, whoever's playing is going to have their hand full, even if Sam Kerr is not at 100% because of her movement, because of how dynamic she is, how clever she is. She reads plays before they happen. So you just have to be on your toes. For Canada's sake, I hope that she comes into the game. By that part, it's too late. But if she starts, you just have to be aware of her every second, just scanning, looking where she is, because she creates room for other players as well.
All right, how about we just worry about our own business right now? That's Canada. Okay, you promised more Christine Sinclair
let's
talk
get into
here.
it. I've been waiting for it.
How is she best utilized in this final game?
You asked me before, I say Christine Sinclair come in, maybe play a midfield role. She doesn't have the legs anymore. All these things. Homegirl, you convinced me. She could play at the 9. She Sophie Schmidt will get into her ability and the way that she transformed the game in a bit. But Christine Sinclair, the movement off of the center backs, one-touch play, the way that she's going out of bounds, she plays it into Heidema. All these little things, she showed her experience, she shows that she's still clever, and she's a step ahead. Maybe not physically in terms of speed, but her brain and the way that she can read moments. Having someone like that up top as a number 9 to almost be a false 9, not playing behind. Jess, you know players like that as well that can run in between center backs and cause havoc that way. But she's coming short. And if you have some speedy wingers, a Leon, a Lacasse, a Deanna Rose, right playing with her, it's a dangerous front three. But for me, she was exceptional. Her movement, the way that she changed the game, she did everything for Canada the second half.
Yeah, for me, I think coming off the bench is definitely the best spot for her, and I do think is in the 9. I don't think she's a 10. I don't think she's quite mobile enough to keep up with the midfielders of the other team. But as Jordan said, her movement off the ball is what really helped Canada in that second half. So, you know, I don't think we should necessarily look to Christine Sinclair to be scoring the game-winning goal, but I do think that it's her movement that might cause that game-winning goal to happen. She is really great off the ball. Her knowledge of the game is just, you know, it surpasses pretty much everyone that's around her. So I do think that she has made such a difference for Canada in that second half, and I think that she could be a big impact for them against Australia.
Nope, you got nothing else to say. I always knew those number 9s were cherry pickers. Is that what you're saying? You don't have to run as much, just stay up front. But you're saying start, you're saying off the bench still.
I'm saying off the bench still.
Okay.
Got a starter, got to.
All right, we have ourselves a good little debate going on over here. When we return on Good Night Australia, New Zealand, brought to you by CIBC, we're going to play a little game of stock up, stock down. You know we love these games here on One Soccer. Stay with us. Because I'm a kind host, I know Jordan wanted to talk about Sophie Schmidt, so how about I include her in our stock up, stock down? Stock up, stock down.
Up.
All right, is she starting for you?
Yes.
Over?
Grosso.
Okay, there we go. Wow, you're quick. Stock up, stock down, Canada.
I'm going to say they're the same for me right now. They haven't gone up, they haven't gone
Up.
down. I can't. That one's, yep, I'm going.
They scored 2 goals. Up.
Okay, stock up, stock down, United States.
Down.
Okay.
Yeah, down for me too.
You didn't like that draw against Netherlands?
No.
England.
Down. Hasn't been their best performances.
Ooh. Down. They haven't scored too many goals.
Spain.
Up.
Up.
Yes.
Australia.
Down.
I guess down.
You better say down if you want Canada to win. I'm kidding. You can say whatever you want.
I was nervous.
Another fun show, ladies and gentlemen. Big thank you to all you at home for always tuning in to Good Night Australia, New Zealand, right here on One Soccer.